Good. Awesome. Okay. So I think we can start. Ashit won't be here because he is not well. I do see we have someone else joined here. So if you want to unmute yourself,
Mm-hmm.
feel free to unmute yourself as well. So this is an open-ended conversation that you are recording it. So let's actually get started. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Mayank. So it's a pleasure having you here on the podcast. It's been a while since we did the last one. So it's going to be exciting. Yeah, let's start with your journey actually. Do you want to tell me about yourself and how about your consulting firm a little bit?
Sure. So I guess I'll just start with my intro.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
come from a small town here in India. It's Nimrana. And around in 2020, I graduated from IIT Bombay. After that, I started to work in data science consulting. So my first company was Sutra Management Consulting. It's a company specialized in BFSI domain, and their main clientele is in the UAE and Southeast Asia geography. So that is from where I started into consulting. With that company, I was primarily working on ETL automation, CXO level dashboard, those type of projects. And after that, I joined EXL, which is a global firm. There, I was for around 2.5 to 3 years. There, I was primarily working with EFSI clients only, but they were based out of US, and we were doing credit risk modeling, some projects related to marketing, fraud, anti-money laundering as well. And by the time when I was there, I also started to get more in depth into data science. So I explained around 75 different algorithms in 75 different posts.
Oh, okay. So what did you graduate in? So you said you graduated from IIT. What did you study?
There I studied aerospace engineering. That was a
Okay.
very passionate type of branch at that time. And but the job in which I got started into that was more in data science, big data.
Okay. So you were studying something else, but you ended up doing internships and something else. How was that
Yep.
transition? Was it easy to make that transition? I'm guessing this was many years ago, right? When like data science was new and not many people were aware of the field because it was just getting started. And so I guess it was easy for you to transition to that field.
Yeah, it was quite easy. And in fact, how I got a data science job, because initially when I was in college, I was working on a side project, and that side project that
Mm.
involved using analysis of data. And we published a booklet. At that time, we thought that we are publishing a full-fledged book, but we can more call it a booklet. It was a 130-page
Right.
document. It contained crop patterns and certain other social things that were going on in India. So I showcased that in my resume and went for the interview. And I was very fortunate that the director of farm, Abhishek, and Sarwan Portnes from Sutra, they selected for that role. And that's how I got started. And basically, to tell you about the transitioning process, it was quite good because Sutra Management, it's a small company. And the benefit you get with a small company is that you get a accelerated learning curve, right? So the project is just a very small team doing the project, and you have to pick up all the parts to be good at the job. So that's how, yeah, it was
Cool.
fun and was easy too.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. And then how did you, so very first job, because you didn't have a background in computer science, I'm guessing a lot of programming and all that stuff, you picked it up along the way, like you're a self-taught data scientist, I'm guessing. So how easy was it on your first job to actually work on a project, and were you a little bit nervous about, how you're going to do it?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I'll tell you like the whole story. That was a COVID duration when I got started with my career. It was 2020. And I was supposed to join the company in the April or May month, but that got delayed to around August. And that is when I actually started to learn. So I completed my SAS certification. If some people would not know, SAS is a very well-known platform for data
Mhm.
science, and all of the big data companies, almost everyone has some kind of SAS access. And there I got my certification. So that was the introduction into programming, how we do SQL, how we write SAS program to do different kind of data analysis. So it was like around 3 to 4 months of my self study. that I did prior to starting my first job. That really helped me in the job. And then the colleagues who were there in the job, they were also very knowledgeable, very supportive type of people. And it was a very hands-on environment. I would say accelerated learning. Only that has been a benefit to my career. But yeah, more or less it's self-learned, self-taught in that way only.
And how? So I never worked in a consulting firm ever before. Even right now, I work for a big retailer. So for me, my clients are people within the company, right? So I work with supply, I work with finance, marketing. How different is it to work in a consulting firm? And also, is there any benefit working in consulting firm versus working somewhere else in big retailers?
Yes, I can answer your question because very recently I had experience with a in-house team as well, where it was out of consulting domain. That was a in-house experience. And to comment about consulting, my role there, it was not just primarily consulting. What people generally understand by consulting is that there's some presentation only that is involved. But in our case, it was a project and consulting combined. And to comment on your question about if there's any benefit or what kind of difference this is. So consulting, it's a high moving field, as in the expectations are much higher. In the in-house team, you have your managers, you have everyone supporting you, and they're the final people. But in case of consulting, our manager, even they're not the final people. Final person is the client whom we are working with, and all of the in-house team. That's like a unit in itself. Also, it a little, I would say, there are some more added dimensions to the job, which are more related to project management, which are, say, client management and those type of responsibilities as well. But yeah, otherwise, it's more or less the same kind of thing that we're working on: data science, solving the business problem.
Okay, cool. Okay. So another thing I want to ask about the consulting is, so this is something like during my early days, it's something that I've faced because when you start working in a company, either if you come from a business background, then it's easy to translate what stakeholders are asking for. But if you don't come from that business background, and if you come from a technical background, it's usually not that easy to translate the business problem into a data science problem. So when you work in a consulting firm, because you said there's no hierarchy, there's no managers or whatsoever, how easy was it to translate what the stakeholders asking for versus what is it that you're providing?
Yeah, that actually adds up to a difference as well, because say in a consulting type of environment, this type of thing, it is pre-decided. There's a very initial phase of process. It is called as the scoping process, right? So we do scoping of the problem. We have to first of all clearly define the problem and the solutions that we are going to work on, at least the outline of it. And only once those type of things are defined, do we get a mandate from the client that, okay, this is something we will go ahead with. In a regular type of in-house job, there is a constantly moving process. But in case of consulting, we do it initially as part of the scoping and part of the solution and the solution proposition itself. So initially it requires much effort. We do industry studies, what other people have tried on, and these type of things already help. But it does not hit us back again, but because that has already been worked upon.
That's good to know about the consulting journey and how things actually work in consulting firms. So coming back to, let's start with data science today and how data science is today. Given how things change in the data world pretty rapidly, LLMs, we now have LLMs and a lot of people are focusing on LLMs. What do you think is the right thing to do for someone who's getting started in the data science field? Jump right away on LLMs, or should they focus on the foundations first? Something that used to exist before, something that people used to focus on before LLMs. What's your advice?
Yeah, what I would say, like a very practical advice, if I have to give, first of all, prepare for a job. If you're coming to data science, any type of experience that you're going to get, it largely you're going to get that experience mostly from the job. Because whenever we talk about data science, there are two parts of it. One is if you know how to do some kind of tool, if you can do SQL programming, if you can do Python programming, But the larger part is the application of these tools, right? And those applications and that business understanding about what kind of issues come up with any data analysis and why this analysis would be wrong in different type of scenarios. Those type of granular type of thing you get to learn in a job only. So very practical advice if I had to give someone would be that prepare for the interview, prepare for the job. And once you're in the job, there will be requirements and then you can build up onto the skill. But again, reflecting back onto your larger question about, say, if someone is just starting up, what kind of thing they should start with. I think very broad understanding, first of all. In general, we have the large language model available only now. But even prior to that, there is a statistics component to it, where you need to understand what different type of numbers mean and in what type of scenario we would do different type of statistical calculation. So statistics is a major component of it. And then also understanding the prediction, how different type of prediction algorithms work, just at least at a broader overview that, okay, this is the difference between ensemble, there's the difference between deep learning. Once you understand that broader spectrum and you start to apply for job, that is when you can, I think, build a much more specialized type of career in either of the things.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's good that you mentioned software engineering, right? A lot of people, because a lot of people are self-taught data scientists, they don't have a formal training into coding or the principles that software engineers follow, right? And so they lose upon the best practices that one needs to follow and the importance and the value of it, right? When it comes to your organization, right? So do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Like why software engineering principles or following best practices is very valued as part of a team or as part of an organization?
This is a challenge that I personally have also seen. People talk about data quality so much, and data quality is just so much a function of people not following the best practices. If you just follow the usual best practices, that you need to see the lineage, you need to see that the distributions are matching, the counts are matching. If all of the people follow through on those best practices, then data quality won't be that bigger of a issue to be discussed. But again, this is a real type of issue. I don't know, like, what is a solution to this? I think a very recent practice, what I came to learn about is a specification that has been launched. It's called Data Developer Platform, DDP specification. And it is much like the software specification that, okay, these are the basic type of things that we definitely need to have, right? Like version control, documentation, and writing proper comments. These are the very basic things that software engineers, all of them agree with. So around that area, I've seen a very good development. It's called Data Developer Platform specification. And I think if people do follow that kind of thing, that would really be good. But it's a challenge. It's a bit like that you can't do much about it all of the time because you have to work on the problem as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, data quality is something I think a lot of people don't think about unless you're like a senior in your team or a lead. People look at the data and they jump on it, trying to do ML and all that stuff because that's exciting, right? Who wants to deal with messy data? Who wants to fix and find the right source of data? Right? It's a boring job. But yeah, that is something that I think it's a very big issue. Like we ran into that recently because data engineers are the ones who deal with that, right? But every single time that they change something, you need to be in a constant communication with them, or at least follow what's really happening in your organization when it comes to data, right? And then what happens is they make some changes, but you were not aware of the changes, and you're continuing to use that data, thinking, okay, you know what, the data hasn't changed much, everything is still the same. But at the end of the day, you're providing a wrong solution to the stakeholders, right? And then they are making wrong decisions, right? So that's a big red flag right there, right? And that's what I faced recently. I faced one of the big issues we had in Decathlon was we have the sales data, but initially we used to have returns in the data, but now we don't have a return. And then there's certain date range after which the returns were not included, or if people return the product, it's sometimes counted as cancel or return. So there's a lot of misinformation, right? That you can only figure out by talking to people like data engineer. So having that cross collaboration with across the teams, I think that is something that people should learn or should be aware of and not just jump right into the problem, right? Um,
Yeah, one more point to add into this conversation is what from my experience also. So when we do analytics, all the business logic matters much. Say in your case, for
exactly.
example, if it only contains the sales data and not the
Yeah,
return data, it will change whole lot many things with respect to the business logic.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
specifically about the analytics part of the data job, people often face so much challenge just to understand that, okay, this is the business logic. This is how this thing is getting calculated. Or
Mm.
oftentimes you will see that there are some projected numbers, but there is no equation that has been documented about those projections that, okay,
Mhm.
this is from where they're coming from. So having that business logic documented as well, that is also something that I will say that people need to start doing more. And around that, I came to learn about a technique. It's called the data contract. I have not met any team who uses their data contract, but I came to
Mhm.
learn it from some Netflix or some larger companies because they also have this kind of challenge. So that's how they started to use a data contract between their different team. That okay, these are the rules that we are going to follow, all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I saw that somewhere. So we have a team in Spain and they were working on a forecasting project, inventory forecasting. So inventory forecasting is a very big problem in retail industry, right? There's a lot of factors that plays a role in that forecasting. And so they're building out this whole project for that. And they documented really well the entire process from start to end. And the data contract is something that you're mentioning. That is something that they followed. They laid out the entire plan, let's say, like in a document about how are they going to solve this problem? What are the data that they're going to be using? How things are going to be and all that stuff, right? Without that proper documentation, it's a no-go, right? And I think that is something that I think one of my friends used to work at Amazon, and I think he was the one who mentioned that Amazon is very picky on that. Amazon, whenever they're trying to build a solution, they don't jump right away into the implementation part. They spend a huge amount of time just writing out the documentations for it, right?
Yep.
Once they have that, then they start working on the problem. Yeah, I agree that not a lot of companies do that. And that is something that again, I think again comes back to what kind of leader you have, right? Who's running the team. Um, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that as well. And I'll put a link in the chat for, I've already put data development platform, but I'll also put a link in the chat for data contract if people want to learn more about it. Okay. So let's go back to about your consulting firm. I'm curious about how you started that. Tell us about how did you end up starting your consulting firm and like why consulting firm? Because it's not easy to start a consulting firm and find clients
Yep.
like initially. So why did you decide to start a consulting firm and how did you end up there?
Yep. So as I mentioned, this was a newsletter only earlier. And then basically when I was looking to do something more meaningful with career and do something more than a day job, that is when I started to get serious into what kind of thing I would want to do if I have to just start up and what is the type of thing that I can do. And that was also the duration when I was really getting into learning more and more about what other people are doing and what all different things are happening in the industry. So I was more particularly interested to understand the use cases of the different technologies. And I also came to see that just a few years ago, there was not much data. The data, it only belonged to the companies who were doing software correctly, right? Data is more of a product of the software because once you have software, they can capture the data and they can store the data. And that is how the big data thing got started. But when LLM came across, there was something very significantly different because earlier people were not able to work with unstructured data much. So it was mostly just a Tableau data and people were using it to build some very specific particular use case say inventory forecasting or credit risk or demand forecasting, those type of forecasting models are what people were doing with big data. But when the LLMs came across and people had this ability to do more, even with small data. So working with a LLM, we don't need a large amount of data. If we try to do our segmentation problem, or we want to generate data depending on some context. So this was a big change. Even with small data, things are possible. Not everyone requires a large amount of data. This is something that was not possible 3-4 years ago. So this was a big shift. And that is when I wanted to get into the use cases. What kind of thing that people would want to do with this? And people don't want to do only the experimental stuff. They want to take things to production because only those have some kind of value. Right. When I was looking at the intersection of all of these things, this picture started to came up that this has to be more with the personalization, that any company, they have large amount of customer data now. Almost all of the companies have a CDP, customer data platform. And the best use of a customer data platform is to have a much deeper connection with the customer themselves. Now, a traditional way to do this is the traditional way that you hire a large amount of team and they sit on top of those information systems, and based on, say, what is the activity of customer, they talk to them, they solve their queries, they answer their queries. But it doesn't have to be this way. And a very highlighting example is of Klarna. So Klarna is a company which cut down their workforce within around 5,000 people, which they trimmed down to around 3,800 recently. And they say that they can run their entire business with just 2,000 people. Why? Because they automated most of their customer service queries. They had a very large team in the customer service team. And only by using large language model, using the newly available AI technology, we were able to solve this problem. So when I see this kind of thing and my background into consulting, I came to this conclusion that this type of thing a large number of companies would want to do. And not all of those companies would have their in-house capability. And they would also want to build a in-house capability for this type of thing. So that's why consulting exists, right? That it can spread out the knowledge, spread out the techniques to a larger industry group. So yeah, that's basically the foundations that got me into defining this niche. I also created a course because I was learning more and more into this area only. And yeah, that's how I got into it. Now, I think your question about how do you get clients and all, that's still a ongoing process. I myself want to use the personalization mechanisms only to do acquire clients and to do that kind of thing, bring more and more quality into the client acquisition process. Yeah, hope to see some results, but yeah, that's the story.
Thanks for sharing the story. I'm putting in the chat the link to the course that Lank is offering. I'm going to be honest, I looked at the course, went to a couple of videos. It's interesting that you're talking about the different applications of AI in different domains. So yeah, if people are interested, take a look at it. If you're new to the field of about consulting, let's say the applications of AI in different domains, yeah, go check it out. It's not that long. I think it's, how many hours is it? It's a 2 hours worth of video to watch.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, so you guys are starting out right now, but so yeah, I'm not going to talk about the project that you guys are working on right now because you're trying to find your initial clients. So I'm guessing you haven't worked on big projects as of yet. But what's the plan for the future? What are you guys planning? How big of a team are you guys planning to have? And where is the future going for your consulting firms?
Yeah, we are planning to expand our offerings. First of all, it's going to the clients. So the target now is to work with 5 clients with a team size of around 30 people. So this is where we are getting into, and we have the target clients in front of us. Basically, we want to do slightly larger projects only. I'll give you just one conversation. We were having a conversation and they said, let's start with something very small. I told them that we should not just jump to implementation. I see that your business, it doesn't have much of personalization. You have your customer data platform, but the emails which you send out, they are too infrequent and there's no upsell, cross sell that you're doing into your emails. There's no brand or relationship building that is not going on in your communications. So first of all, let's do a consulting project. So the offering right now is of two phases, and it depends on the client's maturity. If the client is already a bit mature, then we would want to just pick up that specific type of thing. That okay, for you, we are going to work on review the recommendation engine to make it better. But with a large number of clients that we see, they don't really have much of a system in place for personalization. It's like they just do that infrequent communication. They don't have that brand building type of thing going on. So with them, we do first of all with the consulting, wherein do the review of their business, review their system, review their data, and tell them that okay, the opportunity size that you have in front of you for personalization is this much larger, right? And it's not that we're telling them that bring more data something. It's all based on their existing customer data platform. So this is the type of conversation that we are moving into once we have that scope ready, that this is your outline, this is your potential here. With that, we would want to do a larger project only with any client. Yeah, that's the general direction we're going into.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So in terms of like about team and about hiring, so I see that you're looking to hire a bunch of people, be it in marketing or UI or management side of things. So what is something that you specifically talk about the data side, right? So what is it that you look for in a employee or in a candidate that you want to hire for your consulting firm?
Yes, three things. First of all, energy. I tell so many people that there was a point in all of our lives when we did not know how much is 2 plus 2, right? We learned that thing
Well,
and we built on top of that. And there are a lot of like data scientists out there who have not worked in personalization. That's okay. We don't focus just too much on the experience from the historical perspective. We want to see what were your peak, what are the things that you're proud of, but more
yeah.
so we want energy that they bring in and the clarity that they can bring into the process. Say if any question comes in, where is the kind of clarity that they put across. Even if they don't know, they have to tell it very clearly that okay, these are the things that I know, and these are the things that I do not know. So yeah, energy, clarity, and the speed from the past experience. These are the three main things.
And then are you looking for interns or are you looking to hire full time
It's a hybrid right
as of
now
now?
because yeah, how it works in any sort of say we are in conversation with the client, and unless something is properly defined with a particular set of customers, then it will be much more standard that these are the full time role and so. But right now, we're trying to build a relationship. We're trying to see that these are the worthy candidates because when you hire in a startup, you want to hire people who, even if there are some difficult ones, they would want to be around at least. So we allow the flexibility for them to take up other assignments or explore their other career avenues, but we don't want people who tap at the first sight of trouble. So that's the type of like candidate assessment that is going on right now. And in fact, right now we also work with couple people in a intern type of format, wherein they can have other opportunities going as well, and they work with us as well. So yeah, it is more that, and I think in like the near future, we want to turn a fraction of time into full time.
Mhm. Right. So it's a paid internship, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
we were paid only, and even for clients, there are some clients when we talk to, they say that okay, can you do some POC? Can you show something? We do paid only.
All right.
We charge them from day one.
Right. Yeah. Glad to know. I'll put the link of like my young's consulting firm in the chat as well. And this is going to be getting uploaded on YouTube. So I'll make sure to put all the links that I've shared here in the comment box so people can go check it out. So I don't have any questions, but I want to see if Imral has any questions. If not, then I want to see if you have any questions for us or if there's something that you want to share with the audience to help them in their journey into the data world and how to stay motivated. And because I see a lot of layoffs that's happening and it's not easy to get a job now than it used to be a few years ago. There's a lot of competition. Actually, one more thing that I want to talk about is the different roles in data, right? So a lot of people get confused with the different roles that we have in the entire data domain. Do you want to break down the different roles and the responsibilities that falls into each of the categories? Maybe we can define that better so that people can understand it.
It largely depends, like the role depends on how much time you spend into the domain.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is easily 4 or 5 years of intensive experience, then I can definitely say that the expectation from that role is not that you will be able to write the code or something. It's more that you will be able to see the data and tell them that this is something that you're not doing and you will be able to do this from this data. So that is the expectation from the senior type of person. And then things trickle down. So once that is defined that, okay, this is a problem statement that we are trying to solve, and this is the amount of data that we have, this is how it looks like, then there are multiple roles. If you're trying to do prediction, then you require knowledge into how do we build models. So that is more data scientist type of role, working in the prediction type of environment. Now, when we start to do this, we often need to take the data and bring it to a different environment. So this is more like a data engineer type of role. And these are the two main type of people who work together on a type of prediction model. Two different roles also come then. One is for visualization and second is for the analyst. So analysts are generally the people who have good understanding of the business. Analyst will generate insight. Then there's a visualization engineer as well. It's not a very specialized role, but now it is becoming much more specialized. They will create a different type of dashboard. Broadly, these are the roles, and more now there are more roles also coming up. People who are large language model specialists, who are into prompt engineering. So yeah, couple other roles as well. But I guess this really is the books.
Thanks for sharing about the different roles. And I think it's very important for people to understand the distinction between the different roles. I'm not sure how concrete it's applied in India, but at least in abroad, it's very concrete, right? If you want to hire a data scientist, they'll only focus on the stuff that you've done as a data scientist, right? Now, if you're a data scientist and trying to get a role in machine learning engineering, it's difficult, actually. I have a few friends who were trying to go from data science to machine learning. Initially, you get a lot of rejection. Why? Because again, now the companies really know the distinction between the different roles. And before, a couple of years ago, companies didn't really care. You're a data scientist, you can do everything in just one. Our data scientist would be able to do everything, right? That's how things were a couple of years ago. But now companies really know the difference, and they have, in a company, they have data scientists, but also they have ML engineers who do the deployment at MLOps and all that stuff, right? So no, thanks. Yeah, oh, it's great that you have shared about the different roles and what they mean, right? Um, cool. Any last thoughts or anything that you want to share with the audience before we wrap this session up? Or if you want to ask anything.
Yeah, I'll ask question back to you based on one question you asked me. I think I did not answer that. So the distinction in the product and the services, right? People who are into data, they also work with very specialized type of tools as well. Earlier, it was that you got Python, you got SQL, you're working just with them. But now it's more you're using Data Robot, Databricks, or there are some Snowflake specialization as well. There's a large number of tools. How I like to think of it is tool is like a stove. If you're doing a cooking, stove is your tool, but you are the cook.
Yeah.
Right? How do you balance? So you can have the best stove in the world, but if the cook is not good, then the food will not be good. Right? So that's also the difference between a product company and a service company. What we are trying to do, we are saying that the stove already exists and we want to be better cook to do it, but your thoughts into it, product versus service.
Yeah. So that is something that I get contacted by a lot of people because I see that in the data, a lot of people are building different platforms where they're focusing on end to end, let's say, right? End to end, the full-fledged solution that the companies provide. Some people are providing us a very specific area that okay, this is the thing that we are specialized in, and this is something that we can do for you. Like in my company at Decathlon, because the company has to spend a huge amount of money, like why do we have in-house people? If we want to give the money to the other companies where they're providing this full solution, right? We have in-house people, right? If we have in-house people, why not make them build such a solution at a lower cost, right? The in-house people can provide that service, right? Rather than using someone else's product. And it could be cheaper, right? There's this evaluation that we usually go through. We have it in place where we evaluate, okay, so right now that's exactly what's happening at Decathlon Canada. So Decathlon India is different. Decathlon India is, I'm not sure what they're doing over there, but here, Decathlon Canada, we are the AI team, but we have a lot of people, they're outsourcing a bunch of stuff. So marketing people, they have the set of analysis that they get it done by an external company. Then we have the finance people, we have the supply people, and in terms, there's actually a third party chatbot that we use, right? Even though we exist as an AI team. And that's because a lot of people in the company are not aware of the AI team, right? So this happens a lot. Okay, work in a big organization, and because you're a data scientist, but the other person doesn't really know what you're capable of or what are the things they can help with. Why? Because obviously they are not data scientists. They work in different field, just like you wouldn't know about marketing, right? So this happens a lot, right? So I think it's like conversation, communication, pretty important. Knowing what you can offer and what you can do, and that cost evaluation as well, right? And just like you said, tools are just there. Like tools will come and go. Like today, there's this one tool, tomorrow that tool might not exist, then you have to move on to a different one, right? But at the end of the day, you need to know how to use that tool to make a very good use of it, to build something out of it, right? That is something that's on you, right? How creative you are. So I agree that having a skill set is much more valuable than just saying, okay, I know this tool, I know that tool.
Exactly. This is exactly what we take to the client. We tell them they have all the tools. You got all of your kitchen ready. We are the one who are going to cook good things there.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that I do. So whenever we hire, I take interviews and ask people if they know SQL. And SQL, everyone would say that they know SQL. Why? Because there's not much in SQL. And I mean, there's 10 select, where, join, blah, blah, blah. That's something that you need to know, which you can even, if I ask you in sleep, you will be able to tell me. But how do you actually write a query to solve a business problem? There's a lot of thoughts that goes into that, right? There's a lot of creativity and thoughts that goes into how do you use all of that 10 different keywords to put together as a query to solve a business problem. And on top of that, how do you validate the solution? Right? Like you wrote a query to extract something out, but then how do you know that whatever you extracted, that thing is correct? So that's exactly the thing. Right? Knowing that, I know AWS, I know GCP. Yeah, but how can you make a very good use of it? Right? Exactly. And keeping in mind the cost, because you're building, a lot of people say build pipelines at AWS or GCP or Azure, right? But they never think about the cost that the company is paying for, right? Exactly. And then when you become a leader, you actually realize that, oh shit, we are spending, as a team, we are spending this huge amount of money. The budget goes into this. How can we bring that down? What can we do? So exactly. I completely agree. Yep. So nice, Mithun. I think it was a pretty good conversation with you. We broadly covered on the career perspective. So I think it will be good for audience in the group as well and on your channel as well. Yeah, nice. Great talking to you. Any follow-up and any ending question, something? Thank you. I just want to say thanks for taking time out and for being here and sharing your thoughts and providing us a lot of insights. I think it's definitely sure it's going to be useful to the audience. And hopefully we'll work together in future and come up with something for the audience. And I wish you luck for your consulting firm, and hopefully it'll grow. And someday maybe someone from our audience will get a chance to work with you guys.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That is why we are on your show. We definitely want to hear back from people, talk to people more, because we are into, like it's a longer term journey. So definitely there's going to be crossing of roads. So yep, nice catching up with you for this first time. Let's do something in future as well. Okay.
Pleasure.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank
Yep.
you. And yeah, and thanks, Umbra, for joining us and staying in the session from start to end. Hopefully you'll
Yeah.
learn something as well.